Hey guys, what's up everybody? So today this video going to another video reaction to today's video with MCU PS7, which part 4 is called the project called Hercules Land of the Death. Oh, scary death. Let's begin video.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Rebooted MCU. Today we are here with Rebooted MCU Phase 7 Part 4, which is Hercules Land of the Dead. I'm not even going to keep this intro that long. You guys already know the drill. Let's go ahead and jump into this project. The sixth project of Phase 7 is Hercules Land of the Dead, and it takes place in Universe 2032. The project opens in a bookstore as we see a long line of fans waiting to get an autograph from the world-famous actor Hercules, played by Brett Goldstein. Since the events of the Coming of Galactus, Hercules has continued to grow in fame and popularity, starring in more television shows and movies. He recently published a new book, The Labors of Hercules, My Journey, which discusses his rise as an actor. As Hercules signs books, we see Amadeus Cho, played by Ryan Potter, standing behind him, acting as his unofficial secretary. We then see a familiar face walk to the front of the line, Humberto Lopez, played by Marcel Ruiz, who asks Hercules if he is the actual Greek god, or if that rumor was baseless. After Hercules confirms that he is, in fact, the Greek god of legend, Lopez asks if the depiction of him in Disney's animated Hercules film was accurate, confusing Hercules and causing Amadeus to laugh. While Amadeus and Lopez begin chatting with one another, we watch as Jennifer Walters, played by Tatiana Maslany, barges into the bookstore, informing Hercules that he is needed at the UCLA Cancer Center immediately. This prompts Hercules to abruptly drop everything and leave, with Amadeus grabbing Humberto's number before following Hercules and Jen. As the trio hops into a taxi, the title card.
Regenerative farming is about regenerating the soils and then improving nutritional value of food. The water pump enables us to manage and graze our cattle in the regenerative manner that we want to. Everyone should be able to trust the food that they eat.
Appears. We cut inside the UCLA Cancer Center to see Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, lying in bed, with Bruce Banner, played by Mark Ruffalo, sitting next to her. Hercules, Jen, and Amadeus enter the room and are informed by Bruce that Jane received chemotherapy just a few hours ago. Since becoming the mighty Thor, Jane had begun to experience shortness of breath and found herself feeling weak when performing day-to-day activities. Things took a drastic turn when Jane randomly passed out in the middle of a press dinner with Hercules. She was rushed to the hospital and after 2 days of tests was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Since the diagnosis, Jane has been undergoing chemotherapy and other treatments to fight the cancer, but her condition continues to worsen as the days go by. Fearing for their friend, Hercules and the others have tried their best to be there for Jane, taking turns sitting with her in the hospital during her treatment. Hercules smiles at Jane and tells Bruce that it is his turn to stay with her. As Bruce exits the room, Jen informs Hercules that she'll be relocating back to her New York office for the foreseeable future, as a new part-time opportunity has opened up for her, but she'll still be on call whenever she is needed. Hercules thanks Jen and sits next to Jane, as Amadeus sits on the opposite side of the room. As the three friends sit together, Hercules attempts to make Jane smile by telling her the story of his 12 labors, a story he has told countless times before. We then abruptly cut to a holding cell inside Mount Olympus, where we see Zeus, played by Russell Crowe, and Ares, played by Michael Shannon, locked up in chains. Despite their seemingly awful circumstances, we see Zeus has a smile on his face and is laughing hysterically. Ares tells Zeus to shut up, but Zeus retorts that what is about to transpire is too funny not to laugh about. Ares rolls his eyes as Zeus continues to laugh, saying that chaos is about to overcome the world. Even when he is defeated, he still wins. This abruptly shifts to the Council of Gods as we see Athena, played by Naomi Scott, overlooking the council as chaos is ensuing between the members. Following the events of the Prince of Power, Zeus was locked up and stripped of his title as head of the Council of Gods. Despite Hercules being offered the role, he declined in order to spend time on Earth, leaving Athena as the new head of the Council of Gods. However, Athena finds herself in a precarious position, with the council being thrown into chaos over speeches given by two associates of the god of the underworld. Drasus, played by Damian Lewis, and Baia, played by Dolph Lundgren, were sent by Hades to push for an executive action by the council, namely, pushing for the council to vote for an action of oblivion. an action by which all gods associated with the council would slaughter their followers in an act of vengeance, and rebuild their followers from the ground up. The duo argue that those who worship the gods have lost their way and no longer hold the gods in the regard they have had previously. All arguments made by Zeus before he was stripped of his title. The discussion has caused commotion among the gods, with half believing that they should vote for an Oblivion action, while the other half strongly oppose the idea. In the midst of the chaos, we see Hermes, played by Ben Schwartz, fly over to Athena, shocked by the chaos, noting that he thought the council had moved on from arguing about the future of the gods following the demotion of Zeus. Athena curses her uncle, saying that he is stirring up drama all the way from the underworld. As she says this, she comes up with an idea, tells Hermes to use his fast travel powers to inform Hercules of the situation within the Council of Gods, and to have him travel to the underworld in order to stop Hades from stirring up vitriol within the council. As we see tension among the council growing by the second, Hermes agrees and quickly speeds towards Hercules. Back at UCLA, we see Jane and Amadeus fast asleep as Hercules sits in silence. Hercules reflects on his friendship with Jane and realizes that for once in his life, he might actually lose someone he considers a best friend. As Hercules gets lost in thought, we see Hermes knocking on the hospital room window, waking up Amadeus and catching the attention of Hercules. Hercules motions for Hermes to stop, and he and Amadeus meet Hermes outside. Hermes explains the situation to the duo, prompting Amadeus to ask Hercules about the Council of Gods. The Council of Gods was formed thousands of years ago as a meeting for all the major gods of Earth to discuss relevant issues and find solutions for problems plaguing their followers. While the person who leads the Council of Gods is known as the head, their real title is the God above all gods. The God above all gods is a position given to the god or goddess who has shown the most resolve in their duty, a visionary capable of guarding the respect of all other gods and deciding the objectives of the council as a whole. Before Athena assumed the role, the only god to hold this position was Zeus, who was voted in thanks to his leadership over the Greek pantheon. Conflict on the Council of Gods is problematic enough, but pushing for vote of oblivion puts millions at risk, causing Hercules to agree to visit his uncle and force him to stop his pointless campaign, telling Amadeus to prepare to travel to the necromantian of Archeon and Cypherus, the earthly entrance to the underworld. Hermes reminds Hercules, however, that the entrance is microscopic, as those who enter the underworld typically enter as nothing but dust and ash. So the only way to enter the underworld is to gain entry by Hades personally, or to die and have your remains poured into the microscopic entrance. Puzzled by this revelation, Hercules thinks about what to do, prompting Amadeus to remind Hercules that Simon had mentioned he worked with somebody previously who had the power to shrink. Amadeus believed that if they could get in contact with this individual, maybe he could use his powers to help gain entry to the underworld. Excited by this, Hercules tells Amadeus to call Jen and get more information about this individual, as he plans to use him to help enter the underworld. As Amadeus gives Jen a call, we cut to see Jane looking out of the window and listening intently as Hercules continues to talk with Hermes about his plan. We cut inside the Lang household as we see Cassie Lang, played by Una O'Brien, listening to Work Hard, Play Hard by Wiz Khalifa as she writes in her journal. Downstairs, we see Scott Lang, played by Stephen Yeun, attempting to follow a meatloaf recipe for dinner, when he is interrupted by the doorbell. Scott mutters to himself as he opens up the door to see Hercules, Amadeus, and Hermes. As Scott calls for Cassie, Hermes complains to Hercules that Scott's home was only 5 minutes away from the hospital and does not understand why he needed to use his fast travel to transport the group here. We cut to a few minutes later to see Hercules explain the situation to Scott, while Cassie asks Amadeus about his watch. When Hercules finishes, Scott laughs awkwardly, initially refusing to believe that the Greek gods are real, and the hero Hercules is actually asking for his help. Cassie interjects, asking her dad if he is really shocked about these things, especially after working with a wizard, a man who can transform into energy, and helping fight an evil witch with a talking robot. Scott shrugs, saying that he would be more than happy to help a friend of Simon, that he and Cassie would use their Pym particles to help transport the group into the underworld, but that Hercules would need to handle the combat side of the operation. Hercules graciously accepts the proposition and tells the group to hurry outside and prepare to be transported to the entrance of the underworld. Scott quickly goes to turn off the oven, but as he does, we hear another knock at the door. Scott asks Cassie if she was expecting Kate to show up this evening, but Cassie says Kate is too busy being in depresso mode, or trying to form the new West Coast Avengers these days. Scott scolds Cassie for being hard on her grieving friend, and as Hercules goes to open up the door, we see Jane standing outside, wearing a hoodie with Mjolnir in hand. Before Hercules can say anything, Jane informs the group that she is aware of their plan, and regardless of what they say, she will be joining them on their journey into the underworld. As Hercules attempts to dissuade Jane, she cuts him off and admonishes him for pitying her because of her sickness. Jane reminds Hercules of all of their adventures that they've been on together. Facing Ares and the army of undead Spartans, stopping a nuclear apocalypse as members of the Avengers, and defending the Earth against Galactus. Jane admits that she does not have much time left, but she would rather spend her time going on adventures with her friends than being stuck in a hospital bed. Hercules turns to the group, who all agree that it would only be fair to let Jane join them on their adventure. Hercules smiles and wholeheartedly welcomes Jane to the underworld travel team. As Hermes uses fast travel to take the group to the Necromantian of Archeon, he tells the group that he'll be returning to the Council of Gods to check on Athena, but thanks the group in advance for their help. As Hermes travels back to the Council, we watch Scott and Cassie unleash Pym particles, shrinking the 5 heroes, as we watch them enter the domain of Hades, the underworld. As the group enters the underworld, we notice the atmosphere change. The area is filled with a sense of dread. Silence overtakes the heroes. Hercules notes that when he undertook his 12 labors, it was almost unthinkable that a mere mortal could ever enter the land of the dead and make it back out alive. As Amadeus prepares to ask why that was the case, he feels something large breathing on his back. As he turns around, he is startled by the monster that guards the land of Hades, Cerberus. As Amadeus screams and prepares to transform into the totally awesome Hulk, he watches Hercules walks over and commands Cerberus to sit, a command that Cerberus follows. While Cassie believes that this is the coolest thing she's ever seen, Scott asks Hercules why the legendary mythological beast Cerberus would listen to him. Hercules reminds the group that his final labor was to kidnap Cerberus, and during that process, Cerberus gained respect for Hercules and now listens to his commands. In fact, Cerberus is a very good guardian, as he is extremely loyal to both Hades and Charon, listening to their every command. As Hercules instructs Cerberus to move aside, the group notices Jane beginning to pant heavily, as she appears to have difficulty breathing. Before Hercules can check on her, we watch as Jane uses Mjolnir to transform into the mighty Thor, and tells everyone not to worry about her, as she can take care of herself. Hercules smiles and instructs the group to move onward, as the next leg of their journey will be to travel across the River Styx. As the group arrive at the coast of the River Styx, they meet Charon the Ferryman, played by Anthony Head, who comments that it has been centuries since he has seen Hercules. Hercules asks Charon if he can transport him and his comrades across the River Styx, as he has important business to discuss with his uncle. Surprisingly, Charon says that Hades has been expecting Hercules, and reminds him that the trip across the River Styx is a lengthy one. Hercules and the others board the ferry as Charon begins the journey to bring the group towards the lair of Hades. As our hero's journey begins, Scott asks Hercules what would happen if someone fell into the River Styx. Hercules explains that the river is filled with the souls of the damned, and anyone who attempted to swim the River Styx would be dragged down for the remainder of their days by the souls that reside within the river. Even beings as powerful as gods aren't immune to this torture, meaning that everyone who enters the underworld is forced to use Charon as their primary method of transportation. Charon thanks Hercules for the comment and encourages the group to get comfortable and take in the surroundings, as they might spot legendary beasts or an ancient hero or two as they make their way towards Hades. As the ferry travels down the river, we cut back to the Council of Gods as we see both Drasus and Baia finish their speeches in favor of the action of Oblivion, causing Athena to feel a sense of relief. Hermes arrives and informs Athena that Hercules and his group have successfully infiltrated the underworld and are likely making their way towards Hades' lair as they speak. Relieved, Athena tells Hermes that she has encouraged members of the Greek pantheon to give lengthy speeches in opposition to the action, in an attempt to buy Hercules as much time as necessary. But, as Artemis, played by Tanya Reynolds, begins her opposition speech, Hermes notices something odd, as both Drasus and Baia left the council floor, an action not typically taken by gods or followers who make a motion before the council. We cut back to the River Styx as we see Cassie complaining that there is zero Wi-Fi in the underworld, while Scott looks out to the narrow banks of the River Styx as he sees ancient monsters such as the Minotaur and even a group of Pegasus. While the ferry continues its slow journey, we watch as Amadeus, who is transformed into the totally awesome Hulk, does push-ups in the ferry as both Hercules and Jane critique his technique. Cassie notices this and asks about what Amadeus is doing. Amadeus explains that he is continuing his training regimen in order to pass the time. It is revealed that following the events of Prince of Power, Amadeus underwent the same training regimen Hulkling undertook, being shown how to properly be a Hulk by both Bruce and even Jen. However, once this training was done, he was then trained by both Hercules and Jane. Amadeus felt the need to hone his power in the event that it was needed in order to protect his friends, as after Amadeus lost his mother, his friends are all he has left. Cassie comments that she respects Amadeus and knows the pain of losing a mother. As Scott pats Cassie on the back, Charon announces that the group have officially arrived at the lair of Hades. Hercules thanks Charon for his help, saying that the group will be back shortly as we see them depart for the final stretch of their journey. The scene cuts back and forth between Hercules and his group making their way into the lair of Hades as Athena watches Aphrodite, played by Kristen Bell, give a speech in opposition to the Council of Gods. As the group continue to make their way to Hades' lair, Jane begins to pant and cough, but once again assures the group that she is fine. However, Hercules begins to feel that something is off, as the door to Hades' lair is open, and the normal guard is nowhere to be found. As the group finally enters the lair, they are shocked to discover that Hades is absent. Back at the Council of Gods, Aphrodite finishes her speech as Demeter, played by Jemima Kirk, prepares to start her speech. The procession is abruptly interrupted by the entrance of the god of the underworld, Hades, played by Skeet Ulrich. As it turns out, Hades was secretly at the Council of Gods this entire time, biding his time, using both Drasus and Baia to distract the others, attempting to trick Athena into sending Hercules after him in the underworld, and preventing Hercules from interfering with his plans at the council. Hades speaks to the crowd, asking them to hear his pleas, as he believes that the Council of Gods currently faces a crisis of leadership. Hades notes that the council lacks direction, and since his brother Zeus was stripped of his title, the council has done nothing but argue about what to do. Because of this, Hades selflessly offers to paint a bold new direction for the future of the gods, including placing his full support behind the Oblivion action, which would lead to the second golden age of the gods. Athena watches in horror as applause breaks out from members of the council, as Hades then moves for a vote of no confidence in Athena, a vote that would strip Athena of her title and create a path for Hades to become the next head of the council. As the vote begins, Athena tells Hermes to once again wait at the entrance of the underworld and to bring Hercules to the council as soon as he makes his way back to the entrance, choosing to place her faith in Hercules with the future of the world on the line. Back in the otherworld, the group looks around, confused by the present situation, as suddenly the group hears a roar echo from behind the entrance to the lair. Jane turns around to see the legendary Chimera, a monster with the head of a lion, snake, and goat. Hercules yells for Amadeus to bring Cassie and Scott back to the ferry while he and Jane attempt to fight off the beast. Scott and Cassie shrink and hop on Amadeus as Jane and Hercules attempt to fight off the Chimera. However, as Amadeus arrives back at the river, he makes a startling discovery. Charon has abandoned the group, meaning that the heroes have been set up and doomed to fail, and are now at the mercy of the Chimera. While Hercules and Jane manage to land a few good shots on the Chimera, we suddenly watch as Jane gives out and falls to the ground, panting as sweat drips down her face. This prompts Hercules to stop fighting in an attempt to protect Jane, allowing the Chimera to land a grisly scratch across his chest. Fearing that he is out of options, Hercules places Jane on his back and chooses to forfeit the fight, fleeing in an attempt to save his friend. Despite Hercules' impressive speed, the Chimera is able to keep up with Hercules, and when he arrives back at the river, the reality of the situation dawns on him. There is no method of escape, and he and his friends are stuck between the souls of the damned and the mighty Chimera. As Hercules hands Jane to Amadeus, we suddenly hear a loud neighing sound from the skies above. The group look up to see the group of Pegasus from earlier flying towards the Chimera. Hercules falls to his knees, laughing, telling the Chimera that he now has a contend with his natural enemy, the Pegasus. We watch as a group of Pegasus attack the Chimera, forcing him to retreat away from the group. Hercules calls for the Pegasus and tells the group that they will return to the entrance of the underworld by flying on the back of the creatures. Hercules explains that Pegasus is friendly towards humans and has been frequently used to transport gods in the past. As a group of Pegasus land, Amadeus chimes in that this is similar to Disney's Hercules, a comment that confuses Hercules. As we watch Scott, Cassie, Amadeus, and Hercules, with Jane holding onto his back, fly towards the exit, the group passes Charon, who looks up with devilish delight to see the group. Hercules taunts him, saying that despite his uncle's best efforts, even he could not stop Hercules. Charon warns Hercules that exiting the underworld would not be as easy as he might think, as the likelihood of all five getting out alive is very unlikely. Further, Charon warns Hercules that when those who manage to survive escape the underworld, the world they find might not look the same as when they left it. Amadeus asks Hercules what Charon is talking about, and Hercules encourages the group to carry on as they make their way towards the entrance. We then cut to Mount Olympus to see the holding cell has been opened, as we watch both Drasus and Baia free Zeus and Ares from their chains and help them escape. Zeus laughs in triumph, revealing that he promised Hades a position as head of the Council of Gods in exchange for using the army of undead Spartans. Zeus announces that he will make his way back to the Council of Gods to watch his dream of a clean slate finally become reality, and invites Ares to join him. In an act of defiance, however, Ares declines, saying that he is done following his father blindly and is going to forge a new path for himself to determine. As we watch Ares depart Olympus, Zeus rolls his eyes and instructs Drasus and Baia to transport him back to the Council of Gods. At the Council of Gods, we watch as a final vote tally is counted. Hades has successfully been appointed as the head of the Council of Gods, with Athena being voted out through the vote of no confidence. Athena sits and watches the council celebrate the election of Hades, as Hades officially announces that he will put the Oblivion action to a vote. Hearing this, Athena closes her eyes and silently prays for Hercules to arrive and save the day. We watch as Hercules and our heroes arrive at the entrance of the underworld, but as Hercules calls for Amadeus and the others to exit while he carries Jane, we watch as a giant metal club smashes the Pegasus carrying Hercules, killing the Pegasus and sending Hercules and Jane flying towards the ground. As Amadeus attempts to run to check on Hercules and Jane, we watch as Cerberus leaps at Amadeus, knocking him to the ground. Hercules coughs and realizes that the enemy who attacked him was the Minotaur, and prepares to engage the monster in combat. Amadeus stands and calls for help, as Cerberus is preparing to attack Scott and Cassie, prompting Hercules to scream, but Amadeus doesn't need his help. He is capable of defeating Cerberus on his own. We watch Hercules engage in battle with the Minotaur, trying his best to prevent the Minotaur from attacking Jane, as Amadeus, Cassie, and Scott all attempt to run away from Cerberus. Amadeus then remembers his training with Bruce, Jen, Hercules, and Jane. He thinks of how he looked up to his mentors because of their heroism, their willingness to always put their life on the line when it mattered most, willing to die if it meant helping their friends. Amadeus then stops, refusing to run anymore, turns to Cerberus, clenches his fist, and leaps at the beast, delivering a blow to the middle head that causes one of Cerberus's teeth to fall to the ground as he whimpers in pain. Hercules cheers for Amadeus as he lands a massive blow on the Minotaur. Seeing Amadeus' act of bravery, Scott and Cassie are invigorated to join in the fight, transforming into their giant forms and striking the other two heads of Cerberus, knocking him out cold. As the three attempt to finally escape, he watches a Minotaur use his club to knock Hercules into the three, causing them to all fall over as he steps in front of the entrance. Hercules tells Amadeus to take the others and run after he makes an opening for them. He will hurry out after he picks up Jane. This is when the Minotaur turns his attention to something, as we see Jane floating in mid-air. Her eyes are white and sparks of electricity are flowing from her body. Hercules calls for Jane to stop, as she is exuding too much energy, but Jane cuts him off, telling Hercules that the world needs him. Jane says that she'll use her powers to help Hercules stop his uncle, as she learned from the person who used to wield Mjolnir that being a god is about stepping up when nobody else can. Hercules watches as Jane screams and unleashes a blinding light that blows Hercules, Amadeus, Scott, and Cassie out of the underworld. As the four land outside, we see Hermes sitting on a nearby stone. He is relieved to see the group and tells Hercules that they must hurry. But Hercules quickly runs back into the underworld, where he sees the burnt corpse of the Minotaur and the shattered pieces of Mjolnir. But Jane is nowhere to be found. Hercules stands in silence before gripping his fist and exiting the underworld once again.
Did Jane die? But then the door named Jane.
As he walks past Amadeus, Amadeus asks Hercules what happened to Jane, before noticing that Hercules' eyes are glowing a bright red. Hercules walks directly to Hermes and tells him to bring him to the Council of Gods, as he has a personal message he needs to deliver to his uncle.
Oh no! Hay fever hell! Powerful Perileaf starts to work in 1 hour.
We cut back to the Council of Gods as we see Hades sitting in the head chair as the members of the council clap following the resounding passage of the Oblivion action. Hades stands and praises the members of the council for buying into his bold new direction, and officially declares the Oblivion action to be commenced. However, as Hades makes this announcement, we see Hercules slowly walk to the center of the council floor and call for his uncle, his eyes still glowing a bright red. Hades admonishes his nephew for interrupting the procession, but Hercules growls at him, saying that because of Hades' lust for power, his best friend died, and officially challenges Hades to single combat for leadership of the Council of Gods. Hades laughs at this proposition, but is suddenly interrupted by Athena, who seconds Hercules' motion, allowing a duel for the title of head of the Council of Gods to commence. We then watch Hercules leap at his uncle and begins to pummel him repeatedly, the glowing red eyes being indicative of Hercules entering his true rage form. A form where Hercules is unable to control his power and allows him to unleash an all-out barrage of attacks on his opponent. Hades is unable to land so much as a single hit on Hercules, as he is thrown around the Council of Gods, being used to destroy much of the infrastructure as Hercules' relentless assault continues. Out of fear for the structural integrity of the Council, Athena urges Hermes to quickly use his fast travel to bring Hades and Hercules to Mount Olympus to finish their duel, prompting Hermes to quickly transfer the duo to Mount Olympus and away from the Council of Gods. A beaten and bloodied Hades taunts Hercules, saying that he'll never be able to lead the Council of Gods, and this little temper tantrum will do nothing more than place him in a position where he will be in over his head. As Hermes rushes to transport Amadeus, Scott, and Cassie away from the entrance to the underworld and back to LA, watch as Hercules' fist begins to glow a godly golden. As he picks up Hades, leaps into the air and lands a massive punch, one so powerful that it causes Hades to go crashing back into the underworld below. As Hercules stands and takes in what just happened, we see Hermes fly to his side, informing him that his friends are now safe and no longer in harm's way. With that, Hercules tells Hermes to bring him back to the council, and thus starts the fully written scene of this project, one of the most important scenes in all of Rebooted MCU, Hercules becoming the god above all gods. As Hercules re-enters the Council of Gods, the structural damage sustained by the council floor is substantial, and the council as a whole is in a hushed silence, such that the only thing one can hear is the sound of Hercules walking to the head chair. As he makes his way to the top, Hercules clears his throat and begins his announcement. My fellow gods and goddesses, per the rules of the council, I've defeated Hades in single combat and seek to claim the title as head of the Council of Gods. However, part of me is hesitant to claim this position, as the actions of this council and we gods as a whole is beyond disgusting. At every turn, you have all looked for ways to destroy your followers, not protect them. You have sought to wipe a slate clean and start anew, instead of tackling challenges head-on. Nobody said that being a god would be easy, and why should it be? Years ago, the brave Asgardian was the one recognized by the God Butcher as the only one among us who truly understood what it meant to be a god, and yet would continue to turn a blind eye to what he stood for. He was with his people, believer or non-believer, and protected them till he could breathe no more. He died a true hero, but more importantly, he died a true god. Yet nobody seems to have taken that message to heart. We want to take the easy way out, the least painful road of all. I will admit, I also took this road, choosing the life of play and whimsical leisure over the road of hard work and leadership. But today, that changes. My direction for this council will be for us all to become gods like Thor, willing to work with our followers through the trials and tribulations, never giving up, and when it matters most, willing to lay our lives down for those we seek to protect. If you do not agree with this vision, then I openly accept your resignation from the council, because from this day forward, and as long as I am the god above all gods, we will return to our roots, being selfless protectors, not selfish socialites. As Hercules officially takes his seat on the Council of Gods, we watch as the council stands in applause, showing their admiration and acceptance of Hercules' message. And as the project ends, we watch Hercules smile, as we see a faint flickering image of Jane cast in his eye. In the first post-credit scene, we see Hades lying in the underworld, beaten and bloodied, as we suddenly watch Zeus walk next to him and begin berating him for failing to fulfill his purpose on the Council of Gods. In spite of Hades telling Zeus to shut up, Zeus continues to berate his brother, calling him a failure as both a leader and as a god. This prompts Hades to use his remaining strength to push Zeus into the river Styx, as we see the souls of the damned begin to drag Zeus down, trapping him for eternity. In the second post-credit scene, we cut to New Asgard as we see King Valkyrie, played by Tessa Thompson, standing at the memorial site of Stormbreaker, smiling as she talks to herself. saying that if Thor knew what Hercules had done, he would have been proud. As she walks away, we suddenly watch a faint spark of electricity come over the weapon, as a neighing sound can be heard somewhere in the distance. In the third post-credit scene, we see Amadeus showing Hercules the Disney version of Hercules, prompting Hercules to angrily rant and rave how inaccurate this depiction of his life truly is. And that is Hercules, Land of the Dead. I hope you all enjoyed. I know that the first...
So that's it with that reaction to the video Rebooted MCU PS7 Hercules Land of the Dead. So yeah, so if you enjoy the video, mention on thumbs up and don't subscribe. And I know we lost Jane Foster, Thor, Lady Thor. We got Iron Man, we got Thor, and we got Daredevil, we got Spider-Man, we got Johnny Daniels, we got Happy, and then that's Jane Foster's shame. So yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to do a reaction to the video Rebooted MCU PS7 Part 5. So yes, so I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.